You're watching First Take, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
How do you disrupt Eli Manning on an offense?
Hit him in the mouth. The best thing for any team is to make a quarterback feel pain. You know, you got to be respectful of the other rules of the game, and honestly, you don't want to hurt anybody, but to make him feel you is to bring his eyes down, man. You don't want a good quarterback like Eli Manning looking down the field, ever.
Greg Hardy's talking again. Last time he talked, the Cowboys weren't able to back it up with their loss to the Patriots 30-6. Should Hardy quit talking, gentlemen? Who's going here?
Stephen A.
Stephen A. Should he be quiet?
Actually, I don't think he should.
Oh.
To be quite honest with
Tell
you,
me why.
I have to admit to you, you know, I consider it as disgusting as it may be. I would tell you that his words are working effectively because considering his obviously checkered past, where he was on the commissioner's exempt list after being convicted on a bench trial in North Carolina, which was because of domestic violence, ultimately appealed it, and then there was no jury trial and the case was dropped. He was still on the commissioner's exempt list. Got paid over $13 million for playing just one game, then got suspended for 10 games, got it reduced to 4, missed the first 4 games, and then came back. And as much as he annoyed and disgusted everybody, bringing up Tom Brady's wife Giselle and, you know, his sister and all of this other stuff, we found ourselves, because of it, locking in on Greg Hardy to see how he played. Now he says this again about Eli, which obviously made sense because he elaborated by saying you don't want him looking downfield. You want his eyes down because he's hearing footsteps. You remember, even though the Giants have only given up 7 sacks this year, which is pretty damn good, fewest in the NFC, by the way, the flip side is they just gave up 3 sacks on Eli Manning this past Monday. He got hit 7 times. He had to dump the ball on several other occasions. So if you're Greg Hardy, you want to let him know you're coming. You want everybody to know you're coming because you're preoccupying folks with your game and your intention. And I think in that regard, it's kind of slick and shrewd on his part.
Okay. You know what? That is an interesting, intriguing, insightful between-the-lines take, as opposed to I'm rooting for the Mets to motivate my Yankees, which I'm not buying.
Oh,
but on this count, well,
it's the truth.
Seriously.
It's the truth.
Yeah, it's not true. But on this point, you're probably right about that. Now, I'm on record here. I have little to no regard for Greg Hardy as a person, and I've been detailed about that. But now we're talking about football. As long as he confines his trash talk to the football field, I'm okay with it because my take on him is that's how he motivates himself. He fuels himself by talking big on a Wednesday and having to back it up on a Sunday. And at least for a half against the great Tom Brady, I thought he backed it up. He was talking about flashing on your TV screen. He flashed all over my TV screen, and I'm happy at least this Sunday he will be flashing on my TV screen at Giant Stadium, and I am now sitting next to the biggest Eli Manning fan in the history of fandom right here.
Monday. I can't wait.
You're going to wear his jersey, she says, on Monday when they win, which means you will not be wearing his jersey on Monday. But I'm sure you were offended by this hit him in the mouth kind of talk, but that's just typical.
People need to do that. They need to build themselves up. Other people don't need that kind of motivation.
Need to do that.
Yeah, they don't.
Well, I don't think he qualifies as a weak person.
I will be objective. I'm kidding. The last time Greg Hardy did face Eli, though, he sacked him 3 times.
You do have a reason to be concerned.
I do.
Because it's not like he's lying. I mean, you got to remember, Skip, not only can he get to the quarterback, the reason why he's in a position to talk smack is because it's not like Eli can hit him back. Even if Eli gets the ball off, that doesn't mean that Greg Hardy's not going to hit him.
Correct.
So if there's ever an individual that can talk, it's a defensive lineman because he gets to come at you. And you got to pray that Flowers protects you and doesn't give up a sack like he did Monday night against the Eagles.
So both of you are very worried for Sunday's game.
No, I'm not. See you Monday after they win. Can't wait. Be there. The Cavs finally lock up Tristan Thompson, so they shouldn't be as worried, to a 5-year deal, and he shows his pride on IG last night. So can the Cavs big man live up to those big dollars? Skip and Stephen A. will get into that on the other side of the break. San Antonio Spurs waived Jimmer Fredette on Wednesday after a fantastic career at BYU, including leading the nation in scoring and AP National Player of the Year in 2011. Jimmer was drafted 10th overall in the 2011 draft. In his 4 years in the NBA, Jimmer's averaged just over 6 points a game for 3 different teams while starting only 7 games. Skip, what's happened to Jimmer?
Stephen A. Smith. What happened to Jimmer is the Sacramento Kings got blinded by his college hype. He was as hyped a college basketball player as we have ever seen to me. He was the face of college basketball in his last year at BYU, which happened to have been his 4th year at BYU. So we're not talking about one and done or two and done. We're talking about graduating and done, and then suddenly being picked 10th overall by the Sacramento Kings, when in fact Jimmer Fredette shouldn't have been drafted at all. And again, just to drive this home, he's picked 10th by the Kings that year, 1 pick ahead of Klay Thompson, 5 picks ahead of Kawhi Leonard, 20 picks ahead of Jimmy Butler, and I could go on and on. And I'm not being a hypocrite here. I'm not using 20/20 hindsight. Stephen A., right hand above here. I sat in this chair that whole year. You weren't with me yet. And I said again and again, nope, he's a great college player. And I don't toss that word around loosely. He was great in college basketball. He was great for college basketball. I enjoyed watching him. I looked forward to those games. But I said he cannot play pro basketball. He's not quick enough. He won't consistently be able to get his shot, his jump shot in pro basketball. And most of all, there are 2 ends to that floor, as the Spurs have taught the league. And I didn't see Jimmer play much, if any, defense in college basketball, let alone what I thought he could or could not do in pro basketball. So he immediately became a defensive liability who couldn't really score in pro basketball the way he did in college. So he played 229 pro basketball, NBA basketball games. 3 times in 229, he actually scored more than 20 points. And I was surprised to find that he'd even done that, because he just wasn't good enough. And I know this is a controversial subject, Stephen A., but I'm going to throw it out there again. It's come up many times on the show before. I am very obviously a white guy, and I am often skeptical going into drafts of American white guys. Why? Because history tells me I should be skeptical of American white guys going into the draft. Never since Larry Bird have we ever had a white American NBA player even close to Larry Bird. There was a John Stockton, obviously. There was a Chris Mullin. There was a Kevin McHale. These are great players, but there haven't been very many of them, and none of them was a Larry Bird. And you know, Chandler Parsons knocked out, his Florida team knocked out Jimmer's team in the NCAAs that year. Chandler Parsons is a nice player. We just talked about Kevin Love. He's a nice player, very good player. Larry Bird, no. Superstar, no. And I can give you, we don't have time to go through the reams and reams of data on this, but it's often been a bad idea, especially in the lottery, to take an American white kid. I'm just throwing it out there because history will back me up on this. And this was a classic case, as was Adam Morrison a few years before that. And I sat right in the same chair.
2006.
Yeah. And I said, Adam Morrison can't play. And I know it was Adam Morrison versus J.J. Redick. And by the way, J.J. has turned into a nice NBA player. He is a starter, and he can flat out carry his weight as a shooter. And he'll play a little defense for Doc Rivers. So I get all that. But still, Jimmer was a bad idea because the Sacramento Kings bought into the hype. Your thoughts?
Well, one point you didn't bring up, Skip, is that who was the 60th pick, the dead last pick in the second round of that draft?
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas by the same Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
So they picked Isaiah Thomas 57 picks after, or 50 rather picks after Jimmer Fredette.
It's ridiculous.
But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right with everything that you said. He was just a spot-up shooter, nothing else. And on the NBA level with those athletes, he just wasn't capable of doing the kind of things he was able to do on the collegiate level. level. He wasn't a scrub.
No.
It's just that he was a shooter, and that's all he was. And I guess the ideal system for him was never something that he could find. But to piggyback off your latest point, let's just call it what it is. Listen, and by the way, I want to preface my comments by saying there's no crime in doing this. Nobody was more hyped than Adam Morrison, and I was disappointed that Michael Jordan elected to take him. I believe it was with the 3rd overall pick, and he had passed up on Brandon Roy, who, by the way, if his knees never went bad, this dude would have been a star in the league. Now, Michael Jordan and folks down in Charlotte never fully acknowledged it, but obviously you thought about Adam Morrison, you thought about Charlotte being the Bible Belt, and if you had a white American star, you know, there are people, accurately or not, who are of the belief that that's going to generate a buzz, fill up seats, and ultimately allow you to monetize your product a bit better. It's just that way. We ain't going negativity. We ain't talking racism or all of this other stuff. But we live in a country that's 66% white. 13% black, about 17% Hispanic. It is the way that it is. If you can find a white star that is going to do wonders for your individual brand as a team, and it's going to do wonders for the NBA. Now, the NBA has been very adroit at globalizing its product and its brand, so you have white individuals who are essentially white European players who have been stars, and that has benefited the NBA product as well in a very huge way. But it would pale in comparison if you had a white guy from America that could be a Dirk Nowitzki. If you, I don't care how great Dirk Nowitzki's a future Hall of Famer. No matter how great Dirk Nowitzki is, in terms of marketability, he ain't no Larry Bird. No. If you found another Larry Bird, you have hit the jackpot.
You would hit the jackpot.
And I think to some degree, I think there isn't an NBA team with sense that wouldn't salivate for the opportunity to do that. Not that Jimmy Fredette was ever going to be that, and they knew better than that, but you were hoping, you know, to find a genie in a bottle and have Jimmy Fredette come in and light the league up from long range, particularly the way the game had changed and facilitated the advent of more shooters. It just didn't turn out that way because he wasn't good enough. But we understand the intent, and the intent is going nowhere. They'll still look for those kind of players in the future.
The best way, quickest way to fill your seats of your arena is to win basketball games. And you better pick a guy, and if he happens to be white, but he can still help you win a whole lot of games, good for you. Jimmer could not help you win games.
Well, you know, it's not just about winning. It's about selling. It's about selling products off the court as well. You know, that's what I'm saying.
I got it.
100%. All right, moving on, guys. After vowing to get after Tom Brady last week, Greg Hardy is chirping again, and this time, oh, this one's personal for me. It's at Eli Manning. We'll tell you what he said when we return. Giants, Cowboys. Can't wait, Skip Bayless.
Now it's personal. Yeah.
It is. It's personal.